you used the word commitment by the board. Commitment in a relationship sense is a two-way word. When you're looking for commitment, it involves commitment usually on both parties. And I think the sheriff has been a strong partner, and I think the sheriff is committed and has a number of suggestions how he will manage his budget to stay within the funding that guarantees him full staffing. So I think we're going down the road. I think we do have solutions to these things, but what would help us is, again, where are the board's interests? What do you want to fund as the board? And then we'll sit down as staff and try and figure out where we can push the dollars and make it work.
Okay. Any problem with that from the board? Okay. Back to Ms. Glassy, I think.
Well, I've basically made it through the list of questions that had earlier been answered. As far as what my understanding is for the parking lot at this point, would be an additional $50,000 for EMS is something that interest has been expressed in. And then still unresolved are the external requests for the Resource Conservation District and additional support for the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Commission. I'm not aware of any other items at this point in time. So if there's anything else, now would be the time to address those. It still would be helpful. I mean, our office will work on these things, but it still would be helpful to get suggestions on where you think the funds could come from, because it's a pretty lean budget, and so anytime you can point us in a particular direction, it's helpful.
Okay. Supervisor Pinches.
Well, I think we need to put on the other side of the list the $25,000 of the electronic agenda management.
Okay, so that's
As a source.
As a source. Is it possible?
the unparking lot.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And to Supervisor Delmore.
Well, if we're just going to add stuff up there, then I want $500,000 for the teeter plan.
Okay.
Throw it up there.
500,000.
That was a
Why don't you put up $11.5 million?
17.
17.
Realistic doesn't seem to be on the table.
And do you have any thoughts on where that money might come from?
I didn't think we were having to do that, apparently.
I just said it would be
Some
helpful
ideas.
to point us in that direction.
I do, actually, and
Okay.
I'll get to that when it's
Okay.
appropriate.
Okay. Okay, so where are we in these festivities?
Well, we are in a respond to board questions and suggestions mode. So we've put out the information that we think would be of interest to you, and we're prepared to respond to questions.
Okay. Would it be appropriate at this time to bring up the sheriff's budget?
If that's what you want, yes.
Okay. Why don't we do that? And for the public's benefit, I guess either CEO or Allison or Jennifer lead us into that, and then we can call the sheriff up, or however you want to do this.
We don't have a prepared statement with
Okay.
regard to this, so, I think it's a matter of, we'll respond to what the sheriff says. Tom will probably expand on his earlier remarks.
Okay. Mr. CEO?
Actually, the sheriff and I have had conversations, so that's really the two parties that'll be having the conversation here
Okay.
today. Tom, if you wouldn't mind coming up and we can address your questions.
As Tom's coming up, Supervisor Pinches.
Well, first of all, and this is to the members of the board, I think our CEO just basically stated what I feel is the unanimous consensus of this board is that we're not going to lay off deputies, and we're going to keep the deputies on the street and honor our commitments to the patrol deputies that we have. It's things are tough right now, and if it says, well, that's easy to say, but how are you going to fund it? Well, like I say, we all have $1,900,000 in a general fund reserve, and that's what general fund reserves are for, is for tough times. If it comes to that, we do have the money to honor our commitment. So if the sheriff is lucky enough to hire, say, the resident deputy patrol positions in Covelo and bring him up to his funded level. We have the money behind us to honor our commitments. So if the board stands behind what our CEO just said publicly, then I don't really think we have a really issue here to talk about.
Gentlemen.
Well, I'm sure Sheriff has some opinions, but some of the things, and I don't want to put words in his mouth, that we've talked about is, we're in a declining economy. Normally, when the economy is robust, it's hard to keep deputies around. People are moving around; they're looking for new job opportunities. If you can't sell your home, then people are less likely to move. So I think we do have a concern from our office that we do use a vacancy factor every year when we calculate the sheriff's budget. If everybody stays and there isn't a vacancy factor, obviously that's going to create some problems in the budget. That's why I think it's important that we make the statement that we will fund the sheriff's budget for his allocated positions, regardless of what the eventual outcome is.
Before the sheriff. But one other comment to that, if we are lucky enough to get permanent positions and fill these vacancies, that's going to drive the sheriff's overtime budget down too.